That is when burnout and disconnection set in. You are more than what you produce, and your value is not measured by your output. So, balance is not really about giving equal time to everything, it's about not losing yourself in any one role.
Dr. Mohsine Bensaid's journey from Morocco to Ashland University, from student to teacher to program director and professor, isn't just career path. It's a story about language, identity, faith, and helping people find their voice. So today we're going to go deeper than just what do you do. We're talking about who you become and how that's shaped by where you come from. Dr. Mohsine Bensaid, thank you for taking the call today, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate being here.
Dr. Bensaid and I were coworkers and colleagues at Ashland University. For people who don't know you, how do you usually describe who you are, what you do?
That's a tough question. Yeah, I think it depending on the context, but for example, meeting someone at a conference, I would introduce myself as uh, assistant professor and program director, just framing where I come from, depending on the situation. But if I'm going to my daughter's volleyball game, I would say, "Oh, I'm Aliyah's father or
Yeah.
Amira's father," right? Instead of saying, "Hey, I'm a professor at Ashland University."
Yeah, I think that's important. That context is real, right? I always
Right.
ask people the traditional American question, and we talk about this all the time on this podcast, especially with men, is so well, you meet somebody, what do you do? I always like to ask people now, what do you do for fun? What kind of makes you a more rounded person? What is it that drives you? And what do you do for
What
fun?
I
What do you like to do outside of work?
So at the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned where you come from and how that shapes maybe who you are, what you do down the road in the future, in your career, so on and so forth. Growing up, all I could think of is that I would be a soccer player. That was my dream profession. I didn't really think of anything else. So I did play a lot of soccer growing up. I watched a lot of soccer. One thing that brings me joy right now is watching soccer. I don't feel like I can play as much as I used to in my
Yeah, I hear you.
younger days, but that brings me a lot of joy. I also enjoy taking my daughters to their sporting events. They're both active in volleyball and gymnastics and spending time with family, travel whenever we can. We love to travel and learn about new places, new cultures. It all depends on how much time you have. I think time is that rare, valuable commodity that we can never get back.
Yeah. Yeah. Time and money are the two things that most of us never have enough of, right? You wanted to be a soccer player. I can relate to that, not on the soccer side, but I think until I was really maybe a junior or senior in high school, I thought I'm going to be a professional baseball player, right? And I thought that's what I wanted
Mhm.
to do. Don't get me wrong, I still wanted to do that after those years, but I think it kind of hit me. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be that level.
Sure.
Was there a
Yeah.
moment where you said, yeah, I guess this probably isn't the thing?
I think that's when I had my first fracture at the
Oh,
age of, I think, four, and coming back after that, I think it was maybe a few months later. And I was able to tell, even at that age, I was able to tell that I wasn't as fast as I was. Once you get those injuries, they haunt you and curb your enthusiasm and your speed and
yeah, that happens.
yeah.
Right now, you're serving as an assistant professor of education, director of the TESOL, Ashland. You grew up in Morocco, right? And
Yes, sir. Yes.
at 18, is this what you thought you'd be doing? And how did you end up in the United States? I'm really curious. I don't think we've ever talked about that.
That's a very good question. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. So elementary school, middle school, I saw general education in Morocco, right? And then in high school, you get to choose a route, right? There's a literary route, there's a science math route, and then there's the technical occupational route. So if you go to a technical school, and I was really good at math, right? But I think also as impressionable young people, we tend to listen and sometimes indirectly listen to bad advice.
Yeah, that's true.
And the idea is that if you go to a math route or scientific route, it's super expensive, it's super hard, you have to have a lot of support, this and that. So it chose the literary route. And one day I was just walking down the street and I come across one of my middle school teachers and he said, "Hey, what are you doing now? How was your high school?" And then I told him what. what I'm doing, and he was disappointed that I didn't
Hmm.
follow a scientific route. But anyways, so I'm in high school, right? The second year of high school back then in Morocco, you get to choose another foreign language,
Okay.
an additional language that you study. So I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I had no idea. And then at that point, I knew that I was not going to be a soccer player. So my dreams are all crushed. I'm
Just like
dumb,
about
you know.
80% of young men, right? In some way, we all thought we were going to be a pro athlete, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, second year of high school, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. And then I choose an additional in Morocco. You study standard Arabic from grade one and throughout. If you go to public schools, so private schools, there's a different story. But third grade, you start studying French.
Third
I
grade.
think, yeah, I think now it's different. Now you start from first grade in public schools, you
Wow.
study standard Arabic and French. And then in middle school, you do English or Italian or Spanish or whatever foreign language you choose. But back then, when I was a student back in early 2000s, so my second language was going to be Spanish, Italian, German, or English. So I went for English. And I remember this teacher my first year learning English, and he was such an amazing person, not just as a teacher, but also as a human being. For the first time, I see a teacher playing soccer for fun with us.
Yeah.
We were in gym class, and he was not a gym teacher, but would come and play soccer with us. And that was wow. And it did come from a different educational system. So now I go to K-12 schools in the US, and you see how kids interact with their teachers. Back then, all the kids are facing the teacher, and you cannot say anything without their permission. It was very super rigid. And if your teacher finds you outside playing in the street, right? You better do your homework. So the next day, he's gonna ask you, or she's gonna ask you. So
Yeah.
you better add, physical punishment was acceptable. So if the teacher hits you in class and you go back home and you tell your parents that so and so punished me for something, your parents are gonna doubly punish you,
Yeah. Right.
for that. So,
Wow.
it was a different world. But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. Sorry.
I'm not making, there's no value judgment I'm making on that, but it is different, right? That's just a different world that you grew up in, and that context does help shape some of your decisions, right?
Absolutely. No, big time. Yeah. And that second year of high school experience in the English class was incredible that, okay, maybe this is something that I like. For the first time, I'm thinking, okay, this is a subject that I'm not just good at, but it's something that I like. Right. And that's where I was really. The last 2 years of high school, that was it. It's English. I like it. I love it. I'm interested in it, but I didn't know what to do with it. Right. So I finished high school. And I'm at that crossroads. I don't know what to do with my life. All I know is that maybe my grades are good.
Yeah.
I have family in Europe, and they could go and study in Europe, Netherlands, Belgium. I did apply to an art college in Belgium, and they got admission
Huh.
with a little grant to go with that. And I also applied for a military school, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I got admission to that. And then I applied for, at the same time, I applied for English. And before that, actually, I had a lot of doubts.
Huh.
And people, my cohort, my classmates or former classmates from high school, and like, okay, you should not study English at the university level. It's too hard, too hard. You're going to be competing with kids who went to private schools, who speak English at home, all of that. But then I didn't know what to do again. I'm at that
Yeah.
point zero,
Yeah. And what your
square
friends,
zero, short.
I've talked about this with a lot of people, Mohsine, that what your friends say to you and what your family says to you when you're thinking about careers and choices in colleges and universities or trade school, it matters, right?
Oh, big time. Yeah, I think the things that you say and also the things that you don't say
Yeah.
matter. So when you go to your parents or siblings for advice, they're like, okay, you know what, do whatever you want. It's your life and we'll support you. But you also want, maybe at a certain point in our lives, we want that direct, explicit advice. So, but I was not really getting that. Maybe for good or bad reasons, I was not getting that. But there's a lot of noise, right? You're trying to make a very important decision in your life, but there's a lot of noise, and that can compound the doubts in your head, in your mind. But anyways, regardless of my friend's advice, I went and I majored in English linguistics and literature, English literature and linguistics. at Ibn Tufayl University. And that was an incredibly amazing experience too, just because those professors were not really the product of the Moroccan rigid public system. These are professors who studied in England, in the US, and came back and pursued teaching careers in Morocco.
Culture shock when you went from one kind of system to another?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was, yeah, absolutely. It was completely different. It was great. I had awesome relationship with most of my professors, I would say, not all, but most of them. And these are people who could see who is serious about their studies and who wants to go to places
Yeah.
and would invest in those people. And I spent some of my summers actually working for one of my professors' translation business. So I would go to another city and go, and they would give us documents to try. It was only me and another friend, and we did that on the side,
Yeah. Wow. So
and that was amazing.
was that your first job?
Not really my first job, but it was a different job, different kind of job, because now I'm looking at what this person does. This is an incredibly smart person, and I can see that these people don't just do one thing. They have different habits. They look for high impacts. This is not what I saw around me was like teachers who teach and go home and then come back, and
Mhm.
there's a lesson plan guide that they have to follow that was passed down from the Ministry of Education, and they have to follow that,
Yeah.
to the T. But now I'm looking at different type of caliber in terms of careers. These are people who conduct research. These are people who go to events outside what is dictated by the curriculum. I remember because, yeah, my first year of college was tough because I had to catch up with some of my classmates. I was not really at that level, but I didn't really back down.
Yeah.
I think our cohorts, my cohorts, and it was also like a new system. My first year was a new system that the university adopted where you can actually finish your degree in 3 years. And I think we started with 500
Okay.
and we finished with, I want to say like shy of 100, like graduates.
Wow.
So less than 20% were able to finish that program.
Wow.
But I also remember times where I had to, because those opportunities, so these professors would come down, did not really live in my town back then, early 2000s. Kenitra, I come from Kenitra, northwest of Morocco. It's a coastal city, but it's not really one of the famous cities of Morocco that tourists, go to. So you have Rabat, you have Casablanca, you have Marrakesh, you have Tangier, but not really Kenitra. So the interaction with people coming from other cultures is not as frequent as in other cities. And also, especially with English, there was not really a lot of traction, a
Yeah.
lot of incentives or popularity. Why should people learn English, right? Rarely when you see an English speaking person roaming the streets of Kenitra versus other cities. So
Yeah.
these professors would share opportunities like through cultural exchange centers in Rabat, the capital. And for me to get there to participate in those events, I had to take a taxi from my home, right,
Yeah.
to the train station and then take a train to Rabat. And then it's a short ride, but still, it's something for someone with zero income,
Yeah.
a college student,
Yeah.
and then take a taxi from the train station in Rabat to where the center is, and then go and participate in those discussions. And some of the discussions were around maybe around faith, around cultural questions. So you have students from the UK, from the US would come and then meet with students from Morocco and have those conversations.
Wow.
So I would go probably once a month or maybe every other week just to have those conversations for an hour, right?
Yeah.
And I cherished those opportunities because back then we didn't have access to what we have now. Now we have apps like,
All of
a
them.
lot of language,
Yeah.
learning apps and
Duolingo, all
yeah,
the things. Yeah.
yeah, YouTube. This was pre-YouTube era. It came out, I think 2006, 2007. This was before YouTube. So
That's crazy. Now I
yeah,
can get on my phone here and say, "Hey, I want to learn Arabic," right? And do a daily exercise and at least have a
sure.
concept of what it is and how to speak a little
Or
bit. Yeah.
you might even meet native speakers,
Yeah.
on your phone now, right?
Yeah.
And that would save you the hassle. But also, I think I see the value of doing that because that made me cherish those opportunities.
Uh, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. So you started in English literature and linguistics. Your language has always been a major part of your career from even when you finished graduate school. But move me into how you ended up going from this in Morocco at university to come to the United States. What prompted that? Why? And maybe some of the challenges.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So again, like second year of college in Morocco, I'm majoring in English literature and linguistics. And then there was a new opportunity that presented itself, Fulbright grant. And I was just walking through the corridor of the English department in even Tufan University, and then I see this flyer, Fulbright scholarship. It's a grant that you can apply to, and I was thinking about that, and I started collecting all the documents that they needed, and I knew it was very competitive because it was open to all English majors, right? So, but I did apply. I got that. And at the same time, I applied for a scholarship to a different university in Morocco to pursue not just a master's degree, but it's a master's degree that led to a doctorate degree.
Oh, okay.
It was like a combined program where you can spend maybe 4 years and finish with a PhD. So there was that, but it was in Morocco versus this where I would come to the US and I would come as a transfer student, not so the idea because the new program that I told you about where you can finish your degree was it was possible to finish your degree in 3 years. So that's what I did. I worked so hard to finish that last year in Morocco and earn that degree. And now I finished my bachelor's degree in English linguistics and literature. And then I have these two opportunities, a master's degree that leads to a doctorate degree in Morocco, stay in Morocco in a different city, but still it was not too far from my hometown, or come all the way to the US and finish another bachelor's degree.
What did your family think of this at this point?
Oh, that again, that was, I think it was all up to me. I don't think
Yeah.
they thought of it. They
Like you
could
said,
also see the benefits.
yeah, it can be
What
super
was it? Sorry.
helpful. It can be super helpful. And at the same time,
Yeah.
be like, would you just tell me like what you think?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think with my maybe middle brother, it was like, okay, just go to the US. It's fun. It's gonna be great. Different experience. You can come back and do your master's here, and that degree will always be waiting for you. But this opportunity might not present itself again.
Yeah.
But I think also I was thinking culturally speaking, and again, like reflecting on those events that I attended and seeing how American students were exhibiting not just the confidence, but also the love of what they were doing versus looking at my K-12 experience as a student in Morocco. So I wanted to see something different. I wanted to come to the US. And I knew this because from my conversations with my professors too, American universities or UK universities, they're not just universities for domestic students. They are opportunities to meet people from around the world. You can go to India and study in an Indian school, but
Yeah.
most likely you're going to be mingling with Indian schools,
Yeah.
Indian students, right?
Yeah. When I
Which
studied,
is fine, but
no, you're
yeah,
right. I
but
studied at Cardiff, the University of Cardiff for a semester, and one of my closest friends was from South Africa, right? And you're like, this is that experience alone opened my eyes.
yeah, and yeah, the US also you have the opportunity to meet with people from all over the world, not as faculty, as students, administrators. So it is that it is that melting pot in a way, right?
Yeah.
Where especially in a higher ed environment where there's a lot of tolerance, there's a lot of understanding, and there's also a desire to learn about the people. And I
Yeah.
don't think you see that in other fields.
Nope.
Um, but I think it's embedded in the ethos of higher education to have that open mind to respect and learn about other people's cultures. I met classmates from all over the world, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Nepal, Pakistan, Vietnam, India, South America, Brazil, Colombia,
Mm.
Argentina. And I never met those people before. And it's all in a small
Yeah.
liberal arts college. And that was mind blowing because it's like having the UN in one
Yeah.
one campus.
And this might be a leading question. How can the United States educational system, whether it's higher ed in general, do a better job of making that a priority for people?
I think it all starts with what principles we value, what principles we see as priorities,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's super important. Intercultural exchange or intercultural understanding, I don't think is one of the top priorities. It might be something that individual teachers do, right?
Yeah.
Because they themselves individually think it's important, especially in small towns like Ashland, for example. You have to have that individual initiative, or maybe if you get a wave of immigrants and then the school district starts learning about that population, then they design something. But
Yeah.
if they're not really prompted by immediate interaction, it takes more than just following what we follow to develop opportunities that can teach kids about that. But I want to say one thing about languages.
Yeah.
I think we don't really give languages a lot of importance in our K-12. I
Yeah.
think we wait too long to teach kids other languages. I think once you hit middle school, our linguistic understanding is almost fossilized, especially if you want to get to that native language proficiency versus other languages. And again, like when I mentioned private schools in Morocco, now there's a huge, and they understand this is prompted by economic stability and success. Whereas in America, if you all you need to speak is English, you don't need any other language to do well in life, right? In other countries, that's not the case. So the case of Morocco, you have to be fluent in several languages to land those important jobs, right?
You make a
If you
great
want,
point. No, that's a great point because I think there's, and I'll say it, you don't have to say it. I'll say it, and it's easier for me to say, is that I think there's a piece of it that probably is patriotism gone wrong or nationalism, whatever you want to call it here for us. Sometimes it says, well, English, this is our, and I say that carefully, but understanding that economically, you're right. It's not as important here for folks to know those multiple languages. It is cultural. It is, as we become more of a melting pot, as more people come, like
sure.
it does become more important. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Now in private schools in Morocco, it's very competitive in to the degree that if you send your kid to a preschool, they're learning languages.
Huh.
They're
Wow.
learning English, French, Spanish,
Wow.
Arabic, yeah, from preschool. And it's amazing at the age of, it might seem that the kids struggle initially
Yeah.
but there's a lot of translanguaging that happens. Kids speak French and English at the same time, or
Yeah.
mix up things. But at a certain point in their elementary school career, they start reaching
Yeah.
that proficiency level needed in each of those languages. So by the time they hit middle school, they're fluent in several languages. So you get that. And then if you look at middle school in the US, most schools, not all, but most, especially in public school systems, you have kids still learning the ABCs in French or Spanish, still looking at the basic elements of language.
Pretty basic. Yeah. So you end up here, you end up taking this opportunity in the States. How did that go? What was that like? And now you're thinking, okay, do I want to stay in the United States when I'm done with this? Do I want to go back to Morocco? Do I want to go to Europe? You have options, I imagine. What are you thinking at that point?
Yeah, I finished my degree in communication. I was not really a superstar student. My GPA was great, but that was not really my priority at that point. I think I was, again, more interested in the culture,
Yeah.
interested in learning more about the language itself, learning about people. But I did okay. So I finished my degree, my second BA, and then I went back to Morocco and I taught in an international K-12 school in Tangier, very north of Morocco, for a semester. I think, what was it? I think I was teaching first grade class. Yeah, it was first grade class that was very genius, very diverse in the linguistic makeup and the experiences the students had. I had kids who grew up in the UK and the kids who grew up in Indonesia,
Huh.
kids who were born in Belgium. So some kids who spoke perfect English, other kids spoke zero English.
Wow.
And all I was given was a textbook and was like, hey, good luck.
There you go, Doc.
And
There you go, Mohsine. Good luck.
yeah, during that time, I learned that the director Was really a manager, not really a director, someone who had zero experience, zero credentials in education.
Yeah.
So I was not really happy with the experience. And also moving back to Morocco, not being close to my parents. And at that time, I just got married to my wife, Sarah. I wanted to be close to my family again. And so I went back to Kenitra and she joined me. She came back and joined me here for almost 2 years. Joined me in Morocco for almost 2 years. And then it was not really long before, after that one semester at the international K-12 school, I found another job in my hometown as communicational English instructor and later director of studies at a language school. So it was a school that specialized in business English. So it was a different type of experience.
Yeah.
And my portion of that work was to improve the communicational English program.
Huh.
That was
Did you?
amazing because I was working with different caliber of people. So I had generals in the army who were trying to learn English. I had business people trying to learn English.
Yeah.
I had adults. I worked with middle grade students, high school students, but mostly adults. And that was an amazing experience. Just I loved the culture in that school. I think I had more, I don't want to say freedom, but I had more space to create, not just teach.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
So what led you from there back to the United States?
So my wife had to finish her degrees.
Oh, okay.
She was still in nursing school, so we had to come back. And I came back in 2010. That was my first time in Ashland. Not really my first time visiting Ashland, but my first time living in Ashland, 2010. And I was not really thinking about staying in Ashland. That was not really an idea that I seriously entertained. I was applying for jobs all over big cities. I did some internships back in the day when I was a student at Denison. I did an internship at Political Center in DC
Hmm.
one summer, and I lived in one summer in DC, and I loved DC. So that was,
Yeah.
again, just like that melting pot, a lot of different cultures. It was a special time in my life. So I was applying for jobs there, jobs in New York City, all the big cities, thinking maybe this is what I want to be at. But and then like I got some offers and you entry level offers, and then you look at the quality of life, you look at standard of living compared to the salary that you might earn and housing, and it did not make any sense to me. So I was like, oh no, this is not gonna, I'm gonna have a full-time job with some benefits, but we're gonna struggle. So
Yeah. We're gonna sink. Yeah.
yeah. And also I was thinking because my 2 years I lived in Kenitra, and Kenitra is not really a small city. So
Okay.
it's right now it's over 1 million people
Wow.
living in Kenitra. It's densely populated. So, and then I was thinking, do I really want to do that too?
Yeah.
Go into a big city like New York where you might spend 1 hour just to get to your workplace.
That's rough. I
Is
don't.
that
It
that
takes a
really
certain
worth?
person. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is that really worth it, right? Again, like you get to that point, you're not sure, you're thinking about different things. And I meet this person and she says, oh, okay, what did you do in Morocco? And I said, okay, I taught communication English and I also helped with curriculum development, this and that. And she said, oh, you know what? The Access program at Ashland University, they're looking for someone and you would be perfect for this job since you can speak Arabic. I was like, okay, I didn't see any postings online, but no, no worries. I can go and
That's a good point
give them
that
my
like
CV.
to folks out there is that sometimes jobs are they're posted at a point, but your network is almost always your best
Absolutely. Yeah.
approach to finding the right fit.
Yeah. It's all about building that network. It's not really about applying. I think I would say, I don't know what the research says, but less than 25%
Yeah.
of jobs are people get those jobs through the traditional application, but maybe
Yeah.
70 to 75% is through network, the networks that we build. So I met Christine Reinhardt, the former Access director, and she was like, okay, when can you start? That was her question. She was so happy. Back then, we had a very robust Access program with a lot of, mainly from Saudi Arabia, and there were a lot of cultural miscommunication
Yeah.
instances happening
Sure.
between the Access instructors, the leadership. So I didn't know what to do with a lot of those students coming from a different culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, they said, yeah, sure, I can do this. Yeah, this is exciting. So that's what really kept us in Ashland. Also, my wife's family is from Ashland, so we wanted our kids to grow up next to family. If you go to, let's say, DC or New York or
Yeah.
wherever you end up, and then you're really uprooting them from the only family that they have in the US, right?
Yeah.
And then the other family is across the ocean somewhere else in a different continent. So
Your journey is fascinating, and I think you probably have some ideas about what do American students in you've dealt with folks from all over, but what do you think American students misunderstand about career decisions or success or calling? You have any thoughts on that?
I don't know if they misunderstand. I think maybe a different type of understanding. I think right now, especially historically speaking, we're in a moment where historical moment where people are motivated by, for solid reasons, motivated by that financial stability. There's that pressure too, and they understand higher education in the US is not cheap, right? It's a huge investment, and parents want their kids to get it right. You go to college, you better know what you want to do with your life 30 years from now.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe that's what's lacking at this point. So you have that sense of exploration
Yeah.
that we don't really have. You have students who were there first year. You might get students who are not sure what they want to do. We call them deciding students, so they're still deciding. So
I
that's
always use the
completely
term
fine.
exploring. I would tell them when I was
Exploring. I
you're
love that.
you're a free agent. You're exploring your options because
I love
undecided
that.
even
Yeah.
just sounds just
Yeah,
sounds
there's pressure. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
right.
you're in that moment where you're making that big decision
Yeah.
and you're staying in that moment. So that pressure stays with you continuously.
Yeah. I dealt with a lot of
I love
students
the
and
word, the
parents.
term exploring. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna start using that. I'll cite you.
There you go.
Kind of.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sure I stole it from somebody else. Yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing wrong with exploring, but here's the thing. I think we get a lot of students with now with CCP credits that they exhausted that exploration, maybe
Yeah.
exploration phase. So when they come, they know what they want. And that's fine, I think. There's nothing wrong with that if you know what you want and you
Right.
love what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I think there's some value to exploring, especially at the stage of, especially during your time at university level.
Yeah.
That's when high school students leave high school, right?
Yeah.
Leave the comfort of home. And now, for the very first time, maybe in their lives, they are at that independent stage where they are exploring things. They are, reading about things. They are learning from their professors and seeing what's out there. And that's okay. Maybe the first 2 years when you take your core courses, general education courses, for example, and explore, see where you might find your passion, something that you'd be doing maybe 10, 15, 20 years from that time and still feel the passion and be happy with what you're doing and satisfied with what you're doing. I think that satisfaction point is super important. Maybe we don't really think about, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, young folks think about, okay, this is a very reputable job or it comes with a high salary or what have you, but we don't really think about that satisfaction. Are you going to be happy in what you're doing? Are you going to think it's when you're retiring at that stage, not really exploring anymore? You're retiring
Yeah.
when you sit down after you're ready to retire, hopefully have the means to retire.
Yeah.
When you sit down in your front porch and drink your cold lemonade and reminisce on your career, and are you going to be happy with what you did, the difference that you've made, right?
It's a great question. Has your understanding of career and even significance or or appreciating it been influenced by your faith, your Islamic faith? Has that been part of your journey? What would you speak to with that?
I know, absolutely. I think that as a Muslim, obviously with all faiths, the idea is that you got to be doing what's right, what is not just good for you, but for other people, leaving the world in a better place than you found it at. So there's that idea, and also the idea of work is a form of worship. So there is prayer in the traditional sense where you go to a mosque or synagogue or temple or church, right? You pray. But also there's the worship that you embody through the work that you do. And I think that it comes from the idea of being conscientious of a higher being. Again, it ties well with the idea of satisfaction. Are you
Yeah.
really deeply internally happy with what you've done?
Yeah.
Do you feel any guilt, right? There are a lot of career choices that people might choose, no judgment, but maybe again, like at that age when you're in that retirement age, when you sit down and think about what you did, how would you feel? Do you feel like you did good work? Did you help people? Did you leave the world in a better place than you found it? So it does motivate me. And again, like doing our best. And my father always said this, even if you don't do the greatest thing in the world, just like what you do, what you're tasked of doing, do you do it to the best of your ability? And if you do, when you put your head down on the pillow and think about the work that you did, if you did your best, then that's all that matters. Maybe if you make mistakes, you can go back and think about those mistakes and see how you can make it better next time. But it's all always about not really choosing those shortcuts. I think that kind of marked my career at different places. And I'm happy to say that wherever I went, I kind of left that mark where people were satisfied and were appreciative of the work that I've done. So it's not just about I'm going to work from 9 to 5 and I'm going to do that list that you gave me, the checklist. I'm going to, okay, then go home. But how can I make this more meaningful for the people around me or for whoever benefits from that service?
You answered my next couple questions, which is like
Oh.
all wrapped up right there. I was going to ask, like, how do you hope students or colleagues feel after an interaction with you? And you just said it. I don't need to ask it. So, but I'll give you one more question here.
Yes, sir.
What final piece of wisdom would you leave with somebody trying to figure out what to do with their career, whether they are Moroccan, American, British, Indian, Nigerian? What is a universal thread that you think you could share with people that you've learned?
That's a really good question. So one thing is be patient, explore. Many times, especially in our early years, we think that you have to decide now, it's like there's a ticking clock. But in the grand scheme of things, I think being patient and doing the hard things, again, like avoiding those shortcuts. You don't want to, okay, I'm going to do this because I'm going to earn this much money now and I'm going to be happy. But work can be meaningful and important, but it should not really one thing is it should not carry your worth, the full weight of your identity. And I think this is how some people inflate their worth, who they are, with how much money they make. So when it does, any disruption at work starts to feel like a disruption of your worth, right?
Yeah.
And that is when burnout and disconnection set in. You are more than what you produce, and your value is not measured by your output. So balance is not really about giving equal time to everything. It's about not losing yourself in any one role. So
That's
think about what brings you happiness. Think about what you can do with passion, do with honesty, with integrity, and deep down you're happy. It doesn't matter what people think, because even your family might give you bad advice. You might have, oh no, you shouldn't go to masters. Oh, who goes to masters? And you do not need to earn a master's degree. All you need is a YouTube channel and you can post about your food and make a lot of money. But again, like at that age of retirement, you're going to be happy looking down, reflecting on those moments.
I love this so much. And you know why, Mohsine? Because I have sat in this chair and talked to people from all kinds of different backgrounds and faiths, and almost to a T, they come back to what you've just said. And I think that really hits at the heart of what I want people to get out of this podcast, because it's also something that I have to remind myself. And so, whereas it might be the main thread of the Caller ID podcast, it's something that I have to remind myself constantly. And I think it's why people need to keep hearing this message, right? Because there are times where everything aligns well and I feel good about it. And then when things go astray with a career, a job, or a relationship, those things don't necessarily define who we are. I really appreciate your time today. For folks out there, if you're interested, Dr. Bensaid works at Ashland University. I know my daughter is one of his students, and she's
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Wonderful human being.
Thank you. Yeah. She gets it from her mother. Most of it, I'll just say it that way. Thank you so much for your time, Doc.
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Caller ID podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe with all of your friends on all of your social media platforms. Thanks again. Signing off, Brandon Davis Wells.